The only good thing that has come out of this treadmill of mine being down is that since I'm not working out in the morning, I get to drive my wife to work, and we get to share a little lovely time in the car together on her way to work. So that has been very nice. And it also leads Dave to some moments like this. I was driving her in one day, and it was a particularly tense day. Traffic was a little bit tight, and she knew she was, sometimes you go into work and you're walking into a hornet's nest, and it was one of those days. And so, I dropped her off, told her I loved her, and set her off on her way. And I get going back, and the phone starts ringing. And and for some reason, I just ignored it completely because I was behind the wheel. I'm fighting my way home.
Sure.
And then the text pops up, and I can see, how on a voicemail you get the transcript, right?
Yes.
It was my wife saying, "Hey, you got to come back. I left my phone in the car." And so as I'm driving, I go, "Okay, Siri, text Carolyn. I'm coming right back. Be ready. I'll be there in a little bit. Send." And I'm driving now. I'm coming around.
Oh, no.
And the phone starts ringing again, right? And because it's taken a little bit of time, because traffic was nuts. And the phone number, this time I answer the phone. I put her on speaker. I go, "Yes." She goes, "Did you get my message?" And I said, "Clearly you're not paying attention. Didn't you get my text?" And she just pauses. "No, I didn't get your text because my phone's sitting next to you in the car."
Oh my God. Even as you were telling that story, I was like, yeah, this is fine. Everything's fine. I did not think about that. Brad, husband of the year over here, Brad.
And of course, she didn't have it on ring or vibrate or anything, so I didn't hear it go off in the car.
Oh,
so
God.
I'm just, and I'm in the zone, and I'm coming up Market Street, and I'm like, "Didn't you get my text? I'm going to be there in just a little bit." And she's like, "No, I didn't get your text. The whole point is you've got my phone." So I came around a second time and got her the phone. It just shows
what a third appendage this thing has become, that we just assume that she will have it when we text her.
Always.
And so, oh my God, Brad, what a delightful story, because it's a failure on your part. It's a failure on all of our parts in terms of just forgetting how not omnipresent it is when you need it. Goodness gracious, Bradley Geiger, that's a delightful story. I'm delighted by that, my friend.
She was delighted by it too. A couple days later, when she cooled off, she was able to be delighted by it as well.
And on that note, I'm going to say hello, everybody, and welcome to Comic Lab, the show about forgetting your phone and making comics.
And pissing your wife off and making a living from comics, which, by the way, sometimes comes in the same sentence. I'm Brad Geiger, the author of the Webcomics Handbook and the creator of Evil, Inc.
And I'm his friend Dave Kellett, cartoonist of Drive in Sheldon and co-director of the comics documentary Stripped.
And this week's hour of comics advice is made possible by your support at patreon.com/comiclab. So Dave, let's talk comics.
Let's talk comics, my friend, and we've got a big show for everyone because we want to jump into a topic that Brad and I hold near and dear to our heart.
Yeah.
When a young Brad was growing up in Bad Axe, Michigan, and a young Dave was growing up in Carlsbad, California, and we both would crack open the newspaper and see a comic strip, Brad. And Brad, what did a comic strip mean to you as a kid?
Oh, it meant everything. It was what I wanted to be. It was one of the first things that I really fell in love with. Yep. As a small kid, I remember, pouring through the newspaper funnies. And when I found out that was a thing that you could do for a living, I was transfixed. I was absolutely agog with the idea that you could do these funny little stories in 3 or 4 panels, and that could be a job. That was for me. I wanted to be a newspaper comic strip artist worse than I wanted anything in the world.
And much like you, I think at some point in my teens, I went from loving Charles Schulz and everything that he had done, to loving Breathed and Watterson and everything they were doing. And I just wanted to be in their shoes. I just wanted to be on a newspaper page and just wanted to be making a comic strip. So much so that I remember my joy when I discovered a book to me seemed like it was perfectly crafted just for me, called Your Career in the Comics by Lee Nordling. Do you remember that book? Lee Nordling had a book, and it was, if you can still find it, by the way, I think it's still actually a good read, frankly, because it just talks about the creative processes of creating a comic in addition to the business aspects. But Lee's book was a series of interviews that he had broken up into different thematic chunks with about, I don't know, Brad, 20 or 30 comic strip cartoonists. And anyway, I was set. Once I had that book and once I had fallen in love with comic strips, I knew I wanted to be a cartoonist, knew I specifically wanted to make comic strip cartoons, and I was off to the races.
Yeah.
And what we're coming across now in a really unique moment for North American cartooning is that we might be entering the death of the comic strip, Brad Geiger?
Well, I did a piece recently for the Webcomics Handbook and webcomics.com where I talked about that. Like, is this the end of the newspaper comic strip? And of course, as we've always joked, every time you see a question mark in a newspaper headline or any other headline, it usually means the answer is no. And really, I think that's kind of where I landed as well. But
yes.
It's not that the newspaper comic strip has gone extinct. It's just that it's evolved, and we need to evolve with it. Here's what I'm talking about. The standardized newspaper comic strip was 3 or 4 panels in a long horizontal row. And there was only one reason that format came about, and that's because that was the easiest and the most effective way to put comic strips into a newspaper comics page. That's the whole reason. There's no other reason that
full stop. That was the reason.
Yeah.
And even there, Brad, can I pause you for a second? Because you, as a former layout artist, will know this better than anyone. They were not consistent in their ratio of height to width.
No.
Miss Peach was not the same height to width as a Doonesbury, was not the same height to width as a Watterson. They were all different because there was no, this is how you do it. They all sort of looked what was on the page and kind of figured it out in their own studios. And so even with consistency, there was an odd inconsistency to them once you really looked closer on the ratio of height to width. But that being said, Brad's right. They were done horizontally so that some layout artists in Des Moines and some layout artists in North Dakota could both lay out a page and roughly fit these 30 comic strips onto a full page of newspaper print. And that's why 99.99999% of comic strips you look at in any paper in North America, in Canada, in the US, in Mexico, it's going to be a horizontally oriented comic strip, 3 to 4 panels, mostly talking head characters.
Yeah.
Mostly somewhere between 30 and 60 words in that comic strip. Bada bing, bada boom, Bob's your uncle. That is, quote unquote, a comic strip.
That's a comic strip. And that's the format that we all fell in love with.
Yes.
There's only one problem. People are not reading comics in the newspaper anymore. You know, most newspapers are going out of business at an alarming rate, and people just are not reading comics on a newspaper. Mainly, they're going to their phone and they're reading on a small screen, and that small screen is in portrait mode, not landscape mode. It is a vertical screen, and that's why. When you say, well, is the newspaper comic strip, is the 4-panel strip dead? No, it's not dead. If you go to just about any social media platform like Reddit, you will see that the 4-panel strip and the 3-panel strip is alive and well and thriving, but it's not a long horizontal strip. It is 2 panels on the top, 1 or 2 panels on the bottom. Right? Or 1 panel. For a 3-panel strip, it might be 1 on the top and 2 on the bottom. But the typical layout that you're going to see there for a strip is 2 panels on the top, 2 panels on the bottom in a square.
It is square, and that's not even to say the ones that, like myself, that have adopted a vertical scroll. Boy, that that started sounding like the Fantastic Four villains, the vertical scrolls. That's a very different. That's a very different thing. The vertical scrolls. That's when the Super Scroll also developed Plastic Man's ability, and he just stretched himself out, so he became the vertical scroll. The Super Scroll was a stupid character. Sorry, just
one of my favorites for some reason. One of my favorites was Super Scroll.
Was it? Okay,
yes.
But I guess as a kid, it's like, oh, what if one guy had all the Fantastic Four powers?
I like the visual of it, of seeing a long, stretchy Reed Richards arm that was like the Thing. I just like that a lot.
The one, okay, not to sidetrack us with the Super Scroll, but the one artistic thing that I did love was seeing the stretchy arm that had the rock texturing of the Thing, but then over the rock texturing of the Thing was the flame on of Johnny. Like,
yes,
so do you know what I mean? So it was like mixing everything. The different styles, and it was everything in one. I was like, that's fun. And then the other arm would be, invisible because Sue Storm. Anyway, yes, agreed. Okay, so in addition to Brad's excellent point that every comic that you see on Reddit that is a stack square or a pyramidal shape, or as you would see on Sheldon, a vertical scroll. So you are seeing adaptation to a very different medium where people are not reading a horizontal format because it's impossible on a phone to scroll sideways. It's one of the more annoying ways you can read. I hate it even when the New York Times makes me scroll sideways for certain articles. You're like, F you, go back to vertical. What are you doing?
Well, that's just it. That's going to come around to one of my main points is that you don't want to do that, right? But the 4-panel strip is alive and well, and you'll see it in Reddit all over the place. You'll see, and that's where you see stuff like War and Peas, Sarah Scribbles, Cyanide and Happiness. There's a whole bunch of stuff being done in that format that's easily read on a small screen.
And for all intents and purposes, Brad, is a comic strip like you or I would have known it 60 years ago, right? I mean, it is.
Everything is the same except the shape.
Yes, except the overall flow of it. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah,
and that's because we're not laying them out in a horizontal format anymore. We're laying them out in a vertical format, and they've got comics have always been designed to fit the format of where they were being placed in. When it was a newspaper strip, it was horizontal. Now it's a different placement, and it's a square, or like Dave rightly points out, just a straight up vertical scroll. Now, it was really interesting to see this because I, of course, did the usual promotion on my social media and included a link to a free trial if somebody wanted to actually read what I had written. And I got a lot of people just reacting to the headline, but it's important to talk about what the reaction is, because I got a couple people that were really kind of like, oh no, a comic strip has to be horizontal. You've got to keep a strip like a strip.
Well, can I jump in for a second to ask you, just for a reminder as the conversation has moved on, what specifically was the headline, and then what was the reaction that you got?
Oh, the headline was, the 4-panel strip is dead. Long live the 4-panel strip.
There we go. Okay, yes. So I can see why people would be reacting to that, who are in true internet fashion, didn't read the article. What were the reactions of people that you got?
They were like, no. And there was I'm going to die on this hill kind of conversation where it's like, my strip is always going to be a strip. And they were saying, listen, Brad, people can turn their phone sideways. And you're forgetting that people read these on desktop and they read them on tablets too. And
sure. For those 0.04% people that read on a tablet, Brad, they're going to love it. They're going to love it, Brad, on the tablet. God.
Yeah, and I mean, all you got to do, listen, speaking of when I was driving my wife to work, anytime you drive anywhere, you can look in the car next to you and the person's not looking out on the road. They're looking down at their phone, probably reading comics, right?
Yeah.
So here's something that we really need to talk about, because there's a lot that we got to unpack here. Number one, a strip is still a strip, no matter how you position it. If it's a long horizontal or if it's 4 panels 2-on-2, it's still the same content. It's just that 2-on-2 strip is formatted for a small phone, which is where 90% of your audience is reading your stuff. Number one.
Yes. Yes.
But number two, stop and think about what you're saying. Oh, they can turn their phone sideways. Yeah, they can. They won't.
Yeah,
they won't, but they
can.
can.
Yeah.
And how do I know that? From 27 years of web publishing, we know way back in the 2000s that people won't scroll down a website back when it was all desktop. We knew that anything you didn't have on that first screen view of your website may as well have been invisible. It would have been a great place to put a murder confession, right? Because nobody's going to scroll down to see it. And we got that message through trial and error, through getting our butts handed to us time and time again by saying, hey, didn't you see this thing I put in the blog? No, I didn't see I don't even know you got a blog. Why? Yeah. Because nobody scrolls, right?
Right.
So somebody can pinch and zoom. They won't. Somebody can turn their phone sideways. They won't. And meanwhile, if you're having trouble getting followers for your comic, if you're having trouble getting an audience, if you're having trouble getting crowdfunding going, if you're having trouble any number of these things, and you're insisting on keeping it as a horizontal, at some time you've got to consider that your problem just might be you're putting this thing out into the world in a way in which it's not able to be read.
Yeah. The core underpinning message that Brad is saying here is that you got to meet people where they are. The comic book format, the floppy comic book, was created because it was meeting kids specifically where they were. The newspaper comic strip was created as a horizontal to fill a page because it was meeting people where they were, which was newspaper subscribers, but it was also meeting the layout artists who had to fit a lot of these things onto a page. So that was also, but you get where Brad's going here is that you are meeting people where they are. Where are they? They're most likely on their phone. It is the portable computer that everyone has on their person, as Brad's story makes clear, is that we're so used to it being omnipresent that we forget to, when we text our wife, that it's not with her. You know what I mean? So that the whole point of her calling was to tell you that it's not with her, and Brad still thinks it's on. So people, 99% of the time, they're going to be looking at something at least one point on their phone, right? Eventually will be collected in a book. Maybe later they'll read it on a Saturday on a tablet or on a computer. Most of the time, though, they're going to be reading it on their phone. You got to meet them where they are.
Yeah. Well, I've said on this show numbers of times that a tremendous number of people read my comic on the website using a desktop computer or a laptop computer. I know this. I can tell from my traffic stats that this is how it's being read. You will find nobody more passionate than I am about the power of desktop websites and stuff like that. Yes. They found out about my comic on social media where they were able to read it in a either vertical scroll or a square system, where I've made it fit that portrait mode, a small screen format. I increased my lettering. I did all kinds of things to make sure that people could read my work. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it actually speaks to the power of the comic strip as a discrete form of communication.
Yes.
That the fundamental idea of 3 to 4 panels, where either recurring characters or standalone walk-ons for just this comic are able to communicate a beginning, a middle, and an end, and usually deliver a punchline, all with pleasing art and a pleasing amount of text, and a story, if you know what I mean, in terms of, as I said, beginning, middle, end. That discrete unit of comic strip is the smallest satisfactory story you can tell. It still works, is what I'm getting at. That itself is not broken. What was a little broken during the transition to phones was we were all, Brad and I included, still creating horizontally oriented strips for a world that was going towards a vertically oriented world, you know? And so here's the great news, though. The comic strip was adaptable.
Yes. Yeah. And my only thought to wrap this up is that a lot of people feel like a historical, nostalgic, they're really tied to that idea of a comic strip being a long horizontal. They don't think it's a comic strip unless it is. And I can't say anything to change your mind, although I really wish you would, because I don't think your stuff is getting read if you're putting it out as a long horizontal. But don't take it from me. Take it from somebody who also made the same exact decision and did pretty good in comics. Take it from Charles Schulz.
Yeah.
When Peanuts was struggling to get traction, when Peanuts was really, it was not the powerhouse. And in fact, it had a real slow start. And what Charles Schulz did was he went to his syndicate and said, listen, I'm going to design this thing so that it can be split right in the middle. And all of the panels are going to be the same width. So you can add it as a long horizontal to newspaper comic strip editors. You can offer it as a 2-panel on top of 2-panel square, or he was way ahead of the curve. You can offer it as a vertical scroll. He didn't call it that, but it was a vertical one on top of the other 4 panels going straight down. Yep. And that's how Peanuts got its traction in the very beginning, was because Schulz was not tied to the format. He was not beholden to history. He said, listen, I want to be a cartoonist. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my stuff in front of people. And if that means being adaptable to different formats, like we're asking our listeners to consider, if it means being adaptable to different formats, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Squeeze me in next to the classifieds. Put me over by sports.
That's what he said.
I'll take underneath the weather. Just get me in the newspaper. And that strategy, and you can Google year 1 Peanuts and then Google year 30 Peanuts and see the difference in ratio. Heavily leaning in on the squared panel format in those early Peanuts, and if not perfectly square, it was darn near square in terms of being stackable, being crackable, being lackable. I don't know. I was trying to come up with something.
Attractable would have worked.
Attractable. There we go. Because what a boon to just get it into the newspaper. And then you're like, put me by sports today. Put me by weather tomorrow. I don't care. Just get me in, coach.
Yeah.
And it worked. Yeah. And, to some extent, and to a far lesser extent, Pogo, Walt Kelly designed the beats of his comic strips so that if an editor ever wanted to stack his, that it would work both horizontally and stacked. Now, that's a far lesser example than Schulz, because Schulz really leaned into the vertical or cubed or horizontal. But I just want to say, for a lesser extent, early Pogo also had that to a lesser extent. But just want to reinforce, to Brad's point, some of the greatest cartoonists in history were aware of, you got to do what you got to do to get your message in front of people. Yes. And in this case, stackable, sure, that's fine. Cubable, yeah, that's fine. I'll do that. Put me by sports, I don't care. Put me wherever you want to put me,
Put me in the classifieds, just put me.
Yeah, just put me. So yes,
flexible formatting has always been a part of the comic strip history. And if you doubt it, take a look at all of the rules and format signifiers that have to go into a Sunday strip, right? The whole idea of the first part being something that you have to be able to completely take it off and read the comic without it, which is why we started to get those real big, fancy title panels and so forth. The second row has to be able to be split right in the middle. There's a whole bunch of formatting rules just with a Sunday comic from the newspaper days. Flexible formatting has always been a part of the comic strip industry. This is no different. This is just an offshoot. This is time to embrace this and be a cartoonist to the fullest and accept that flexible formatting. And so the answer to our comic strips dead is no. They're not dead. Or are they, Dave Kellett?
Well, this is the second part of it, is in addition to 2 guys saying that, boy, are comic strips still living their best life, and in fact having a bunch of new innovations on Reddit or on websites or on phones, the format is very much not dead. What we are seeing from a business perspective in these recent weeks is actually a very interesting wrinkle, is that some of the greatest living cartoonists in the comic strip format are calling it quits. And the fact that they're all moving away from newspaper syndicated life is really a continuing nail in a coffin that, honest to God, friends, I thought would have happened 10 years ago. It has lasted far longer, I'm just being honest about this, than I ever gave it credit for. I genuinely thought there were no careers to be had in newspaper comic strips, but then Dana Simpson proved me wrong. Tawhid Bondia proved me wrong.
Will Henry.
After friend, Will Henry, that's another great example. There's still careers to be had in newspaper comic strips, and yet the past couple weeks, Brad, we've had some names part ways with newspapers, haven't we?
Well, a couple of friends of the show from an interview not too long ago, Zitz and Baby Blues are both announcing that they're closing down. And just recently, Dave, there was another one that added that list.
Zitz, Baby Blues, and Big Nate this past week.
Big Nate.
Parted ways with syndication. And Big Nate, to his credit, actually, will not be going into reruns, which is actually opens up a fair amount of spots, depending on how you do the math of it. Either opens up 125 to 300 or so spots, although I think he's sticking around on Sundays, so it's probably closer to 125 or 150 spots that he's opening up. Anyway, a good move on his part. But there's also Dana Simpson, who we have huge respect for, also a friend of the show. She has moved from newspaper syndication to purely YA graphic novels, which, by the way, is a move that I applaud. I think actually that's the greatest play for her right now in her career. But again, is kind of another death knell in the newspaper syndication model.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that slowly grinding to a halt, right? And a lot of our friends that are in newspaper syndication have a real eye towards making the transition towards young adult graphic novels, that middle grade graphic novel where the sweet spot is for a lot of people. That the ones who have the properties that can easily be translated to that, like Lincoln's Big Nate is a really great example. By the way, fun fact, if you want to really flex your cartooning muscles, it's not Lincoln Peirce, it's Lincoln Peirce. Do you remember him explaining that at the NCS one day?
I do, but I had forgotten that. Thank you for reminding me of that. I'm glad I didn't say Lincoln's name out loud because I would have messed it up. That's great.
If you want to be a real insider, that's how you do it. But yeah, I've talked about how Big Nate, when my kids were in school, I had a middle grade teacher that if I brought in Big Nate books, the woman practically, this English teacher, broke down into tears because these things could take a reticent reader and make them into a passionate reader like
the
magic.
Big Nate books. Yeah. If you've got a child of a certain age, the Big Nate books, I just want to co-sign this out of love for Lincoln's work. At a certain age, those Big Nate books, of which I'm not kidding, in the Kellett household, we have about 35 of them. Yeah. And God, there was a 3-year period where they were read, and then the last one was put down, and then went right back to number 1 and started over again and reread all 35. They are a great read for kids. They're so fun. I mean, and also for folks that have a love of cartooning, Big Nate himself was a lover of cartooning in the comic and would create basically in-comic stories for kids who were themselves learning how to draw and learning how to tell little stories. And it's just adorable. The whole thing is adorable. Anyway, so that's a whole side pitch sales for Big Nate. Yeah. But the point being, Brad, though, that virtually everyone who is working, for example, at Andrews McMeel right now, if you go down that list of people that are actively no, I'm not talking about legacy strips. I'm not talking about something where it's a grandchild that has inherited a comic strip. But if you go down the list of Andrews McMeel Comics cartoonists that are working in the last 10 to 25 years, virtually every single one of them has developed or is developing a YA novel series that they can kind of transition to. It's their exit door for when everything fully crashes in the syndication market. Am I wrong?
No, that you see that happening an awful lot. I don't know whether Mr. Peirce has announced it or not, and maybe you've got this information and I don't, but I'm assuming that Big Nate is going to continue in graphic novels, in that kind of book publishing, although I haven't seen anything saying one way or the other. But I kind of assume that would be what he would do, right?
Are you specifically asking if he's going to be making new ones? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I haven't heard that.
I don't know, because I would imagine, why would they ever walk away from that cash cow of those Big Nate books? They just sell like hotcakes. So those, I would imagine, will just keep selling. because kind of like what Brad did with his early Evil Inc. books, one of the things that Lincoln did really cleverly is he would reformat his comic strips in a Big Nate book to read in page format. And sometimes there would be a cutout splash panel made out of a single panel of a comic strip. And then the next page would have three. You know, what I'm getting at there is that, like you did with Evil Inc., he took a comic strip and made a graphic novel out of it. And it was great. It really worked for kids. It was great. And that specific formatted size that so many YA novels have is just a great way to see comic strips and the details of comic strips that you never used to get in sort of the traditional. Well, you know what? Wait a minute. Wait 1 second. Do you remember the vertically oriented Peanuts books that ran in the 60s and 70s? They were a little bit before our time, but maybe not before your time. But they were the older Peanuts books.
Oh, you're so proud of yourself for that. You're so
happy
proud of yourself.
I was so happy with that joke. Okay, but this is before virtually all of our time. But Peanuts collections and Beetle Bailey's used to be collected into vertical book format. Remember these? They were. Oh gosh, darn it!
I'm sure they existed. I'm just saying I don't remember seeing them.
But what I'm getting at though is I'm looking at my comics collection bookshelf right now to see if I have one. I used to have about 40 of those things. Anyway, I'm fairly certain, Brad, that the Peanuts were stacked into a cube in those book collections. Is where I'm getting.
I'm sure they were. I'm sure
to a page.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is just another sign that like the comic strip was made to be modular. Yeah. Modularity is actually one of the great things about a comic strip. You can go vertical, you can go square, you can go horizontal. I've even done it in some of my books where I've done it stair step fashion. If you can imagine a full page of a comic strip where the 4 panels go over to the right and then down and over to the right and so it looks like stairs going down. You guys all know how stairs work.
We don't know how stairs work.
What I'm getting at is the modularity of a comic strip works in a billion formats.
So that is the answer to our newspaper comic strips dead. That's or our comic is the comic strip dead. The answer in both cases is no. It's just that online they're evolving into this 2-on-2 format, and the newspaper comic strips are evolving into graphic novels. Right. In other words, this whole topic is about the evolution of the newspaper comic strip. And it's not that we're losing anything through that horizontal. That was just a format. That was just literally this is what works, so we're going to do it. To get tied into that and to feel some kind of like, it's not a strip unless it's got this shape. I don't understand that mindset, especially when so many examples throughout history and like long ago history like Charles Schulz and recent history like Lincoln Peirce show us that what is important is the content, what's in those little boxes. That's what's important, not the shape, not if they're in a row or down or square or even stair-steppy. What's important is the content.
I love that you have seized on stair-steppy as my shitty, like last tacked on example. You're like, even stair-steppy. God. Even Dave's last minute edition of stair-steppy. Who cares? No, but the bottom line is, as Brad was summarizing so beautifully, is that not only is the comic strip not dead, people are still actively clamoring for what it can deliver. And so if the format changes somewhat, if the modularity of a comic strip changes somewhat, that's fine because it was ever thus, and it's fine if it does it again. Yes. And so so not only are comic strips not dead, they're kind of frankly living their best life on a vertical format in a phone or on a stacked format on Reddit or on any other format you can think of, or a slidey on Instagram. Let's not forget that, Brad. People do love the slideys.
Let's not forget the slideys. Listen, I'm so far on the other side of this. Like I specifically build my comics so that they can be both, right? Yeah. I build my comics so that the graphic novel eventually is going to look good. I build it so that it can be torn down and be displayed as a vertical scroll. My website is, if you're on desktop, it displays that comic in one way. If you're on a smartphone, Tucheki allows me to display that comic as a vertical scroll instead, taking advantage of whomever is looking at my comic at the time. So I'm way over on the other side of the spectrum. I'm like, listen, I'll do whatever it takes. Just read the comic. I'll come over and read it to you.
No, and so to answer Brad's opening question of, are comic strips dead? No, they're not. But maybe what is dead, maybe the final thing that we're coming out of this conversation is what maybe is dead is a strong, proud, frankly, money-churning 100-year history of comics appearing a certain way in a newspaper format.
Yeah.
And honestly, again, I thought it was dead 10 years ago. And it speaks, frankly, to the once juggernaut income of newspapers that even now, in their dying days, they're still holding on for another 2 to 5 to 10 years, way longer than Dave Kellett thought they were going to last. Yeah. Because there's still money to be made in a newspaper, even with just boomers reading them. So, so yes, the comic strip alive and well. But maybe the format of newspaper comic strips, as was presented for 100 years, maybe that's going by the wayside. Hey, gang, if you're listening while you work, take a minute to stand and stretch.
And while you're doing that, we'll tell you why you should join us on Patreon.
Yeah, because when you do, you'll get hours and hours of podcasts that we've recorded just for backers.
And exclusive Patreon posts that go even deeper on Comic Lab topics.
And you'll get access to our exclusive Discord server, a thriving community of professional cartoonists.
So you can support the show you love and get tons of actionable resources for your own cartooning.
And ho Nelly, if you want even more comics goodness in your life, check out the new drawing show that we're doing with our pal Kevin McShane over at wrongwayshow.com. That's wrongwayshow.com.
In each episode, we'll show you how to draw your favorite cartoon characters the wrong way.
Now, everybody, let's talk comics.
Absolutely. So, Dave, we've got some updates now that we're towards the middle of the show. I just mentioned Tucheki, and again, as another indication of some of those Web 1.0 strategies that are coming back as social media platforms falter, Tucheki, Brian over there, our friend, Brian Litu, just released today, just a couple hours ago. It launched. Today is when we're recording is April 21st. And by the way, I'll tell you right now, it's 12:38, and that's going to become significant in a minute. But a new website called thecomicscout.com opened up, and it's a way for people specifically who have WordPress. Preferably, I would imagine if they use the Tucheki content management system, it's another way of getting different comics out there and work on discoverability. And I don't know where it's going to go. I'm participating in it because I think it's a great idea that I'm just interested to see how it transforms. But if you've got a comic that's on WordPress and if you're using the Tucheki content management system, check out the Comic Scout. I'm very excited to see where this leads.
I also love Brian, and I'm so appreciative to the help and professionalism he's given to my websites over the years, and in broader, the gift that he's given through the Tucheki system to webcomics. So yes, go over to thecomicscout.com. This is not an ad. That's not something Brian's paying for. We just love Brian's work and want to see him succeed. And so yes, thecomicscout.com, and check out what he's got going on over there. We're excited to see where he's headed with it. So that's fantastic. And Brad, I had an update from mid-show. This is more a friendship update, Brad. More of a friendship update.
Update.
For the first time, and I'm not kidding, and maybe there'll be people out here that appreciate this. For the first time since the birth of my children, Brad, I am at inbox zero with my emails. Really? And now, for some of you out there, that might be like, who gives a shit? Yeah, no one cares. That's fine. And I get it. No one cares. This is just for me. But there's sort of a decade there, Brad, where when you're a parent between the ages of birth and 10 years old, where literally you're just like, I'm doing my best, gang. I'm trying to keep it together. No, I mean, don't you think that first decade is really like, I'm doing my best, gang? Listen, I got 4 doctor's appointments today, 3 soccer things. I'm doing my best. And finally, I'm at a stage, and I have not had this for 15, 20 years, I'm at inbox zero, Brad. Do you maintain at inbox zero?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Listen, I understand the philosophy behind inbox zero, but it's kind of like there are so many bigger priorities that I've got than reaching inbox zero. And I don't say that to bring yours down, but it's just like to sit there and do that. And by the way, you're talking to somebody that at one point didn't like being on Instagram so much that he physically went and manually deleted all of his Instagram posts for several years.
Yeah.
That took some time. I could have been spent doing smarter things too. But I'm also, I use Inbox to organize so much that I'd be scared I would delete something that later on I would need. You know what I mean?
By the way, already happened within the first 24 hours of me getting inbox zero. I had an email that I was like, wait, I know that this existed. I guess I deleted it. But here's the thing. So first of all, I hugely agree with you. Clearly, if had it been a priority, I would have done it in those 15 years, gotten inbox zero. I think it's just a case of, you know how a couple weeks back we talked about reclaiming our power from corporations. This is me sort of reclaiming my time as a parent. Like as my kids become teenagers,
that
you don't remember this because your kids are older than mine.
Yeah.
But when they get to become teenagers and they start to become independent actors in the world that you can forget about them for huge chunks of time and they're fine, you can start doing things like reclaiming your time again as a parent. That's so different from when they're 2 and you're like, please don't put that fork in that outlet. Please don't put that fork in that outlet. That kind of thing. And you're chasing them around. So what I'm saying is that I'm at a stage in my life where I can reclaim some of my time. And I don't know that inbox zero will be a permanent feature in my life. Knowing me, it'll be like my dieting. It'll be really strong for about a month. And then I'll be like, hey, chocolate cake, my old friend. How are you? Yeah. But it's fun to be at inbox zero for at least a little bit, Brad, as something that I have not had for 15, 20 years. So there's that.
Yes, no, I can totally agree with you. I can tell you something else that you're not going to have for another 15 minutes. And that is you're going to have the status of not having been nominated for the Hugo Award yet for another 15 minutes. That's why
true.
I shared with our audience what time it was because I'm watching the clock on the wall.
That's what that was.
Yes. And it's 15 more minutes until they make the announcement. And I don't know who's more excited about this, you or me.
So for folks listening, we obviously record these weeks ahead, and so the Hugo announcements will already be out. But for Brad and I, Brad's my only pal that I've told, aside from my family, but Brad's the only pal that I told that I got nominated for a Hugo, who's very excited. And he said, when exactly? When can I say it? When can I do it?
Yeah.
And so he has been so supportive and kind for me. And first of all, thank you for your excitement. I'm really excited. They do release it in just a few minutes here, Brad. And I just want to talk about this for a second. Since you brought it up, I know what it means to be nominated for an Eisner or a Reuben and what the fallout is not the right word. What the knock-on effects, I should say, the knock-on effects of an Eisner nomination are. I'm going into the next couple of minutes not knowing what the knock-on effects to a Hugo nomination are. Yeah. Because as Brad and I have always said, an award doesn't change your career trajectory necessarily. It's a nice day. You float on a cloud for 24 hours and then a little bit less for about a week, and then it's back to the trenches, right? That doesn't really change your life. It's very much a hedonic adaptation. But what we're curious to see is what marketing potential can come out of this nomination. Because both Brad and I share a professional curiosity of like, how do you parlay an Eisner nomination into more book sales? How do you parlay a Reuben nomination into some career move? Or how do you, because that really, Brad, is maybe the one big advantage to an award nomination, right? Yeah.
You've got a moment and you make the best of that moment and then you get back to work, Right. And so I am interested to seeing what that, two things. Number one, what the knock-on effect is. Also, I just want to see who else is nominated in your category. And I want to see that comparison as well. Just because I'm curious about who gets nominated for these things, You got to be a little bit curious who you're up against.
I'm so curious because Brad, with my luck, it's going to be somebody like, Drew Struzan is the other artist in the sci-fi category. And I know Drew passed away last year.
This is the one year they bring back Boris Vallejo, Drew Struzan, and Frank Frazetta.
Yeah. And so, exactly. And then Dave Kellett. I'm like, hi, guys. We're all here in the green room. Oh, boy. And Dave Kellett. Oh, boy. Who's this? And they're like, who's this little shit? But you have seen sci-fi book covers. They're gorgeous. I mean, it's literally, in terms of a cover selling a book, some of the best book covers ever designed have been book covers. I mean, I still to this day, 30 years on, think of a very specific book cover for God Emperor of Dune, and Brad's going to shrug at that one.
Yeah, was that the one that had a lot of sand?
God bless America. This is how you know that we love each other, because I lovingly give Brad grief for NSFW stuff now and again, and he lovingly gives me sci-fi grief for loving Dune, and it's always the same goddamn sand joke, but it works every time. He lands it and then he giggles for 5 minutes, and he's gonna be showering tomorrow going, "Oh, landed that sand joke, just nailed it."
He may be a Hugo nominee, but I got him. I'm the guy that got the Hugo nominee.
Hey, Dave. Is that the one that had the worms? The worms, Dave? The worms in the sand? Yeah. No, but I looked it up because there were people in my... Okay, let me get cheesy for a second.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, Ray Bradbury, Asimov, Frank Herbert, those were names that meant something to me in the same way that Watterson or Breathed or Schulz did. I loved sci-fi as a kid, and I loved sci-fi authors, and I would stare at the book covers, and honestly, by staring at the book cover for Dune so much, that's how I came to know the phrase Hugo Award winner. Like, I didn't know what a Hugo Award, as a 13-year-old, why the fuck would I know what a Hugo Award was? Right. But you stare at a cover long enough, you come to be like, oh, well, I should figure out what a Hugo Award is, or you get by sheer repetitive seeing it. That was almost a sentence. Just by seeing it on a repetitive basis, you come to associate Hugo Award with quality because you've looked at the cover of Dune so much. Yes. What I'm getting at, though, is that somehow Drive, and this is just a testament to finding your own weird path in life, Drive was my way of marrying my two great loves. I wanted to tell a serious, galaxy-spanning sci-fi story like Frank Herbert or Bradbury or Asimov, but I wanted to populate it with comic strip characters like Breathed or Watterson would have, right? Yeah. And so, anyway, not to get cheesy, but it's a nice moment for me because I literally never thought the sci-fi world, as Brad's wonderful song made clear, I never thought the sci-fi world would ever notice it. And so it's nice. I know that I'm not going to win, but it's nice to just have the little feather in your cap, right? I mean, it's always nice.
Oh, I'm so excited. I know it's super nice. I like I said, I don't know who's more excited about it, you or me. I get to go around bragging that I'm your friend. I think it's going to be just a great time.
Well, listen, and in the 1% chance that I do win, I just want you to know that I'm going to be wearing that thing around like Flavor Flav with a clock, and I'm just going to have the
put a chain around it and hang it around your neck.
I'm going to be going to my grocery store. I'm going to be going to. Oh, speaking of grocery stores, I should mention to everyone listening, there is a public market in Philadelphia, PA called Reading Terminal Market. It used to sit under the Reading Terminal, which was, Brad, the Monopoly board game terminal, right? For
Reading
the railroad, right?
Yeah.
Reading Railroad. Which I always said was Reading Railroad because Philadelphia doesn't know how to pronounce a goddamn word like reading.
Anyway. Let me tell you about the Schuylkill River sometime and let's see how you can spell it.
Anyway, fun fact, that was the train station that became the Monopoly train station for everybody that's ever played Monopoly. Yeah. But now there is a public market. And for those not familiar, they're huge in Europe and in some Midwestern and East Coast cities. They're non-existent on the West Coast. Yeah. But Reading Terminal Market is basically a big public market, kind of a farmer's market, but in a permanent place, right, Brad?
Yeah, it's all independent vendors, and you've got everything from like mom and pop restaurants and food vendors to poultry butchers. You can get your the brown eggs, the good eggs with the golden yolk. produce. They've got a couple
stuff, right? Don't they have Amish stuff there?
Yep, Amish produce and a couple of Amish like markets where they're making and selling food. A couple of really good bakeries down there. Termini Brothers has the fantastic cannoli, fudge makers, homemade chocolates. I mean, everything. If you've ever come down to,
by the way, just this is important. Look at Brad off to the races describing this goddamn place. Here's why I'm bringing this up, and he would have gone for another 10 minutes describing it.
I would have.
So Brad's on the podcast today, and he's wearing, I just want you guys to know, he's entering his old man stage where he is leaning into becoming a man who loves a public market, because this is now, I think, the second or third shirt. He's wearing a t-shirt that says Reading Terminal Market on it. He bought a GD t-shirt that says Reading Terminal Market, but I know you own one with that pig on it that says it's from the butchery, right? So you own a butcher's t-shirt.
That's from the roast pork place. They have roast pork sandwiches, Denix. Denix has amazing roast pork. There's also, so I've got Denix. I've got the sausage place with the little pig in the top hat. I've got Termini Brothers because, of course, I've got
three
them.
T-shirts.
and what's I'm missing one in there now.
You have the one on you're wearing right now. Reading Terminal. That's 4.
Reading Terminal is 5. I've got Denix, the sausage, the Termini Brothers, and Reading Terminal Market. I feel like there's a 5th one in there somewhere, but I'm missing it.
Oh my God, 5 T-shirts. So I just want you to know, as a friend, I see this. You're in your public market T-shirt phase of life, and that's great.
Schulz Poultry. That was the 5th one. We got
Schulz Poultry. God damn it! Also, it's just the most half-assed T-shirts. Although, like, are you a celebrity walking around Philadelphia? People are like, "Oh boy, look at that stud."
Well,
with
they do recognize Reading Terminal, but I'll tell you what it was. My kids got me into watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and they've always got these T-shirts on, which are like these, like the East, the East Passyunk Fun Run or something like that. And so I'm like, you know what I need? I need some like authentic Philadelphia. You've got to be there to know what it's all about. T-shirts. And so my wife and I go down to Reading Terminal every Saturday to do part of our grocery shopping, because we get all of our meats down there because it's so much better. A lot of the produce and stuff. Stop for breakfast.
Again, he's about to monologue about it. Gee, God bless America.
Oh my God. We were standing in line.
You keep falling into a monologue about the Reading Terminal Market. This was supposed to be a brief interlude about your T-shirts, and now it's 40 minutes on the monologue.
Well, that's the upshot. That's the upshot. I just started buying T-shirts of all the places that we used to go, or that we still go.
The capper on all of this is people often ask Brad and I, what are the best parts about being a professional cartoonist? Yeah. And one of the unremarked things that we so rarely say is that we don't have a boss. We don't have someone who can tell us what to do or not do. And in Brad's case, we don't have someone to pull us aside and say, like, listen, would you like to have sex at some point in the next 9 months? Stop wearing public market T-shirts.
Oh my God. No, I haven't worried about what to wear in years at this point.
I mean, look at me. I joke, but like, look at me. I look like I rolled out of a dumpster, for God's sakes. I need a haircut in the worst way. My wife recently said to me, is like, you're starting to look like a homeless man. Go get a haircut. I was like, all right, I really. So that's that. I mean, speaking of.
Would you like to have sex sometime in the next couple of weeks?
Me wanting to have sex sometime is like, well, maybe that's not a good look. So yes, it is one of the quiet advantages, Brad, to being a professional cartoonist, is we can wear whatever we want. Whatever we want. Including a pig that says Denix Butchery on it.
I'm telling you, those are good roast pork sandwiches. But I won't go into a commercial. We're going to wrap up the show with one more question. And this one comes in from one of our Patreon backers, John, who says, do you have any tips or suggestions to keep panels and page styles uniform throughout your entire work? This question stems from my last panel not looking like my first panel. Since I work in small segments of time, I tend to forget pen sizes, hand lettering sizes, fixing on details. I get zoom sighted, for example. And he says, I acknowledge that this is likely a work habits thing that should improve over time, but I'm asking for any of your small, actionable habits that would minimize the frustration when I step back into a disjointed looking comic. So Dave, some thoughts on uniformity of style.
I've got some great tips for John. Since John, it sounds to me as a cartoonist who, again, looks like a homeless person because I'm a professional and can wear whatever I want. No, but it sounds to me like someone who's been doing this for 26 years, or to Brad, that you are very early on, John. And so please don't take any insult by that, because it sounds to me like you're finding the time between work and life to squeeze in a panel here, a panel there, all of which is great. Brad and I super support that. But I want to give you a couple strategies on how to go for consistency when life doesn't give you consistent amounts of time to work on the comic, right? So to me, reading this question, Brad, it sounds like John is fully completing a panel, going away, coming back, working on a fully completed second panel, going away, coming back. So the low-hanging fruit that I can offer you first, John, is pencil the entire comic right away. Boom. One fell swoop, right? Then your character sizing, your lettering sizing, your panelization, all of that will be consistent because you've done all of it, even if it's only a penciling stage, in one go, right? Then do your inking in one go. That's suggestion number one. Suggestion number two, John, is since it sounds like you're early on in the process. And so Brad and I know 25 years in, whether we're working, on a day-to-day basis, we know 25 years in, whether we're working on our Huion, whether we're working on our analog pencil and ink comics, that, listen, if I'm doing a character, I reach for this pen or this digital brush. If I'm doing a panelization, I reach for this tool or this ruler, right? Like, we know what we're reaching for after 25 years. But since you're at the beginning of the stage, one of the things I'm going to recommend to you, John, is the next time you go to do a comic, just on a 2x3 Post-it note or on some sort of index card or some piece of paper nearby you, just write down lettering ? Use the Micron 03, or making panels, use the Faber-Castell Bippity Boppity, whatever pen you're using or whatever digital brush you're using. Write it down. Just write it down. Honest to God, the ideal thing is within 6 months you won't need it, but for those first 6 months, to have the consistency of knowing what tool you reached for last time to do a certain character's hair, for example, or background clouds, or the lettering, or the font you used, or the way you did your panelization, having it written down will help a lot. And then my final suggestion on this, John, and this is more when you're a couple months in, perhaps, although God knows it would be so helpful if you did it right now, is make a story Bible that includes characterization and overall theme of the comic that you're going for, what the thrust of it, what you're going for, what you're trying to shoot for, what the character's overarching storyline is, what their background is, so that it is consistent, so that it keeps to its own rules. Here is the thing about a story Bible. I'm going to tell on myself and on everyone else who has ever created a story Bible. As soon as you create a story Bible, you will never look at it again. You might pull it out once or twice. You will never. But here, John, here's where the benefit of a story Bible is. The benefit is having done it. Once you do it, it kind of registers in your craw, and you don't forget that the character was adopted, or you don't forget that this specific business was established in the 70s, or whatever it is in your story that you wanted to create a background for. You remember it once you've created the story Bible for it. So yes, it exists physically in a little binder by your desk, but you're probably not going to use it. But the but on top of the but there is, you don't need to, because the act of making it is what's important. Brad, what other additional points do you have for John, or did I nail them all?
Well, you had me at butt on top of a butt, but I'm just going to add one last one.
I think that was the last Evil Link After Dark, wasn't it?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Yeah.
When John said Zoom sighted, I got the picture that he was probably a digital artist. So everything that you said is an instant cosign. I'm just going to say you need a template. Especially if you're a digital artist, you need a template.
Yes. Yeah. How did I forget that, Brad? That was so
an easy
obvious.
One.
Yeah. That's low-hanging fruit.
If you're doing hand lettering, in that template can be the guide marks that you make for lettering. You can have that part of the template, however you guide yourself. Please tell me you're using some kind of a guide for your lettering. But you can have those lines, or, however you do it. You can have that set up. You can have your panels set up. You can even have, as part of that template, little notes that, like Dave said, that say, oh yeah, when I'm brushing, I like to use a 20, this, and that. If you're using Clip Studio Paint, you can even lock in certain pen sizes and certain pencil sizes so that they're the default. When you grab a pen, it's automatically certain pen nib and a certain size. So you can do that as well. It just sounds like you need a template, and that would solve about 90% of this.
Yeah, agreed. And so I think between our 4 different bits of advice, number 1, work on penciling and then inking cohesively as one's pass. Number 2, write down the materials you use. Number 3, create a template. And number 4, create a story Bible. All 4 of those through by the way, even if you don't do a complete story Bible or a complete template, just starting a half of one is on the way. Like over the years, Brad and I had templates that we would recreate from whole cloth and try different, because, you know, you're figuring out how you're going to figure it out, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So your first template will not be your forever template. That's what I should say. That's a better way to say it, is that don't feel like, well, if I created it in 2026, here I am in 2035, I got to keep using it. No, you don't. You can change it. So, and the same is true with the story Bible, and the same is true with the materials you use, and the same is true even with your penciling and inking. So all 4 of these will change over time. In fact, that's probably one of the goals of getting better as an artist, is that these will change over time.
Yes,
but at least for now, as an early cartoonist, John, I think these 4, you're off to the races. You do 1 or all 4 of these, and you're off to the races with consistency.
Absolutely. And another, and I think, Dave, the word there is consistency. For example, if you were doing a podcast, you'd want to make sure that when you got about to the 1 hour mark, you had somebody around to say consistently that you've been listening to Comic Lab, the show about making comics and making a living from comics.
Your hosts have been my delightful friend, Brad Geiger, sponsored by, let's just say it, Reading Terminal Market. Sponsored by or friend to Reading Terminal Market. He's the editor of webcomics.com and the creator of Evil Inc. at evilcomic.com.
And my friend, the Hugo-nominated Dave Kellett, the co-director of the comics documentary Stripped, and the cartoonist of Sheldon at sheldoncomics.com, and Drive at drivecomic.com.
And the Comic Lab theme song is used with permission from Andy Creighton at theworldrecord.net. And this episode and all episodes was edited by the ever-wonderful, ever-whimsical Matt Woodard of Woodsong Productions over at www.woodsong.media.
If you love Comic Lab, you can rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, and you may hear your review featured on a future episode. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on Spotify, where we are burning up those podcast charts.
And share your thoughts on today's episode over on the Comic Lab Confab line. That's at 1-609-379-3520. And we may play your message on a future episode.
Make plans to see Comic Lab live at the NCS Conference and Reuben Awards, August 6th to the 8th in Columbus, Ohio. Go to nationalcartoonists.com for details.
And you know what? I can say this now because we're in a little bit better shape than we were when we did the live talk at the Schulz Museum.
Yeah.
But do you remember that photo that was taken of us at the Schulz Museum where we both were wearing button-down shirts? And Brad, I've never seen buttons working harder on a shirt. Both of us were, let's just say those shirts were purchased at a younger, more virile stage of our lives. Those shirts were working so hard. So yes, you will want to come join us live over at the NCS Conference and Reuben Awards, August 6th through 8th, because those buttons are not going to be working so hard on Brad Geiger.
No.
And listen, even with the Reading Terminal Market visits, he's doing great.
I'll have a new T-shirt. I won't be wearing a button-down nothing.
It'll be T-shirt number 6. And Comic Lab is made possible by your support at patreon.com/Comic Lab. So we'll go ahead and say that twice. Patreon.com/ it's pronounced Reading Railroad, not Reading Railroad.
It's pronounced Peirce, not Peirce. And now, broadcasting live from the hallowed halls of Oxford University, where the air is thick with old leather and academic rigor, it's time for the histories of sequential art with our esteemed guest, Dr. Reginald Wigglesby.
Tickety-boo, old boy, and chip. Always a delight to receive a call from Colonel Geiger of His Majesty's 3rd Mountain Regiment. To pip and what-ho! Colonel Geiger, what is today's comics query you have for the Professor of Comics, yes?
Dr. Wigglesby, on this date in comics history, it was the first time that Walt Kelly experimented with using different fonts in his dialogue balloons.
Yeah, bit of a sticky wicket to put different fonts in the old poker, wasn't it? Yes. How utterly marvelous! I'd say he put a different font in Pogo, and Bob Zaroka, we were off to the races to an absolutely illegible comic that no one could figure out what the blasted heavens was going on, right? Chin chin, I say, to Walt Kelly on that one. The first use of the font that no one knew what in God's heavens was going on there. You would have Germanic fonts, Germanic Gothic fonts, followed by some Southern marvelismism of American the Southwest. You had no idea what was going on with the fonts. Every third word was a different font. Walt Kelly, arguably, Brad, one of the best artists that has ever walked the comics pages in the newspapers of North America. His font use was absolute bat drudgery. It was ridiculous, Bradley. It was hard cheese, old boy, I say. Hard cheese.
I'm so glad we made the decision not to be insulting anymore.
God damn it! Oh, God damn it! I did.
Okay, let's go see your Hugo nomination.
Oh, yeah.